Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Point Firearms, and I'm back to bring you another video on in my series of the 6 real worst case scenario possibilities. We've already covered scenario 1, which is a personal worst case scenario or a life-altering, life-changing event, something that affects you but not the rest of the world, alright, and how to prepare for that. So if you missed that one, go back and check that one out. But in this video, what I'm going to talk about are some recommendations and some of the ways that I am preparing for what I feel will be the most likely, most probable SHTF or worst case scenario to hit the United States, and that is an economic collapse, a collapse of our currency, or another Great Depression. All right, so. I'm probably going to look down a little bit because I've written some notes just to kind of stay on track to keep me from rambling on and things like that. But basically, here's what I want to start with. All right, a lot of people, if you haven't noticed the state in which inflation has risen over the past few years and how the cost of living has skyrocketed over the past few years, then you need to get your head out of the sand. Alright, if you are just living in denial, then it's time to wake up and smell the chicken and prepare yourself and do something about it. But I just want to go over some stuff actually, and I'm going to source this from Calculated Risk. I think it's calculatedrisk.com. It's calculatedriskblog.com. Alright, and what this is from is, and this is where I actually got did a lot of my research at, was this website. My wife was at her employer. She was looking to she was at her 1-year evaluation, and she wanted a pretty substantial raise based on the cost of living. And so what I did was I did some research for her to get some hard numbers for her to take to her employer in order to get this raise. And so what I'm going to do is kind of go over some of the stuff that I found in this research that I did. First off, let's talk about the overall cost of living increase. All right. Now this is statistics from October of 2010 to October 2011. I don't have any updated stuff from then until now, but if anybody that's been out there in the real world, you've seen that it's gone up. All right. So, but from October 2010 to October 2011, the overall national average cost of living went up 4.4% based on the 12 months. All right, now that doesn't seem like a whole lot, 4.4%, not that much, right? And it's really not that much for an increase, but keep in mind that word that I said, which was average. And so what the government did was they went in and they took everything, and I mean everything, and they based it on that. Because some things climbed a lot, such as gas, food, and things like that. Some things didn't climb that much. The cost of electricity, things like that, didn't rise a lot. You know, my electric bill from 2010 to 2011 hasn't changed that much, and I still use about the same. So the increase there is very small. So what they've done is they took all of that stuff to make a smaller number to make you think that the cost of living really didn't go up that much. But we're not that dumb. So like I said, it went up 4.4%. Now also what I've done here is I've put together some other numbers based out of the same website. And then I also used another website called dailyfinance.com just to get some average cost of living raises on specifics. All right. So now let's talk about groceries. All right. The groceries is another one that this is stuff that we use. Groceries are. The average cost of grocery increase was 10.25% for things like meats, eggs, vegetables, and fruit. All right. Those are things that we use a lot. Especially if we eat at home and not eat out, which I try to do as much as possible. Sometimes with this raise in the cost of those things, it's just as cheap for me and my wife to eat out sometimes as it is to eat at home, but I still like to eat at home. So 10 over 10% there, all right? In 1 year, it rose. Other items like sundry items such as cereals and oats and flours and sugars and things like that rose an average of 4.5%. So not that much on the sundries, but a lot on the grocery side, like meat, eggs, and stuff like that. The things that we could go out and get if we raised it ourselves, if we were homesteading, those are the things that increased a lot over that year span. Gas. Everybody knows about gas. All right, but here's a little thing that you didn't know, or that you may not have known. Here recently, the cost of crude oil has actually dropped, but yet gas prices have remained the same. Now, some people call this a conspiracy, but this is my personal belief in what's going on. The country is currently like over $16 trillion in debt. And people may think, well, I've heard people argue with me and say, well, that's just a made-up number. No, it's not. You can only print so much money until you can't print anymore. You have to have checks and balances, all right? Just like in your own personal finances, you can only charge so much until creditors are going to say, no more. And just think of it on a larger scale with the U.S., except our creditors are people like the country of China. Keep that in mind. But this is my theory on why gas prices are still up, even though the cost of crude oil is down. The government's trying to make up for it without people knowing. So if you look at the average amount of people that actually research the cost of crude oil versus the cost of gasoline, it's probably slim to none in comparison of the millions of people that live in America. But they're using that to make up the difference. They've increased the taxes of gasoline to make up the difference to try to pay off the debt. But the debt's not getting paid off. It continues to rise. As of 27 January 2012, gas prices were 39 cents per gallon higher than the year before in January of 2011. All right? And that's a 14% increase just on gas prices. Now, I don't know about where you're at, but where I'm at, gas prices have kind of remained the same for a while, and I'm hoping that it stays that way for a little while. But even though I'm not getting what I pay for, because crude oil is cheaper than what I'm paying for the gasoline, but whatever. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about gas. We all know gas is going up. Back in, I think it was January or February when I did this research for my wife, I checked on the census.gov website. And it's the U.S. Government Statistics and Population Organization website. Cost of living, we had already talked about it going up 4.5%, and that was the total of everything. Well, back in February, census actually estimated that the cost of living in America was going to rise another 5 to 7% over the next 3 quarters. So once again, continuing to rise, and nothing's coming down. Alright, so with those facts, you can see that I'm not just BSing you. I'm not just another crazy person out there that is a prepper. Those are hard facts. Those are numbers that came from government websites and statistics and other things on the economy and the financial instability of America. And so that is the reason why I am so confident in the fact that it's not if an economic collapse happens, it's when an economic collapse happens. And like I said, in the other video, you've got people out there prepping for end of the world scenarios when really, honestly, what you should be focusing on is an economic collapse. In my opinion, based on, kind of what I think would happen, when the collapse happens, it's going to happen instantaneously. It's not going to gradually, happen. It's just going to be, we're going to wake up one morning and gas is going to be, $20 a gallon. Or, we're going to go to the grocery store and it's going to be just ridiculous expensive. Like I was saying, it's going to happen. It's going to be quick. and we're not going to know. So what causes an economic collapse? Well, in my opinion, what's going to cause the economic collapse is, like I mentioned before, you have to have checks and balances. And so, you know, we all know what the Federal Reserve is. We all know about Fort Knox. We all know about the gold and you know, things like that. Some people, conspiracy theorists and stuff, think that it doesn't exist. But you have to have something to base something on. When you get credit, your credit's based on your income. You know, because obviously somebody's not going to grant you a line of credit if you don't have an income to pay off that debt that you're going to acquire with that line of credit. So when we print money, we print U.S. currency, it's based off of the gold standard. All right? Well, the problem with that is that we've continued to print money over the years. And you know, everyone looks at gold and says, oh man, gold's worth so much more money now than it was 50 years ago. The fact of the matter is that gold isn't worth any more now than it was, you know, 50 years ago. An ounce of gold is still an ounce of gold. It's the fact of the matter is that the greenbacks, our American dollars, they're just not worth as much anymore. You know, gold is still worth the same now as it was 50 years ago. It's just that these guys aren't valued at as much as they were 50 years ago. All right, 50 years ago, a $50 bill was probably worth, you know, or valued at a lot. And the dollar bill was worth a lot. I can remember when I was a kid, my grandma would give me $100 for Christmas and tell me to go to Walmart and buy whatever I wanted for Christmas, and I'd leave Walmart with a whole buggy full of toys. And now it's like I can't step foot in Walmart without spending $100 and walking out with a bag of stuff. So it just shows you that the cost of things is higher and the value of the dollar bill has gone down. So to squash the myth of gold being worth so much money, it's not. It's just that these guys are worth a lot less now. So when your currency, the value of your currency based on your income or our collateral drop, or the value of the money keeps going down, but the collateral doesn't gain any value, that's how you go into an economic collapse. The checks and balances no longer balance each other out anymore, and it collapses. Alright, so once the collapse happens, this is kind of what I feel is going to happen. Alright, at first, the first few days, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. People are going to, we're going to know. The preppers, we're going to know. We've seen this coming. We're ready for it. That's why we're prepared. Alright, but, the rest of the people who think we're crazy are, they're going to, a few days it'll work itself out. The government, they have to fix it. They have to, make it right. They have to, correct the problem and give me my handout, or give me, ways to fix it. But the fact of the matter is they're not going to be able to. And so the first couple of days, first 2 or 3 days, not going to be that big of a deal. People are going to, work through it. And if you think about it, the average household, if they cook, if they normally go grocery shopping and things like that, they're going to have enough food in their house to last them for a few days. And they're probably going to go out and try to buy everything up on the shelves at the stores, like they do when a snowstorm's coming or something like that. But after those 3 or 4 days, and the food starts to diminish and people start to get hungry, then it's going to turn into a little bit of chaos, and it's going to become dangerous. People are going to start begging for food. They're going to start, they're going to start starving. Guys who have a family, they're going to start trying to, find food for their kids by any means necessary. And so it's going to become chaotic and dangerous. And then, the days are going to continue to go, and who knows, weeks, months, who knows how long it'll take to fix or to start to build back up. And that brings me to another point. We talk about an economic collapse and a Great Depression. My dad told me about, and this goes back to prepping, and how, people look at prepping as being something new when it's really not. They've been doing it for generations. When my dad was in school, he had to write a research paper on the Great Depression. And so at the time he had some grandparents that were that had lived through the Great Depression, and so he thought, you know, well, I'll get some firsthand input on what it was like. And you know, being from the South and being that generation of preppers, you know, they lived off the land, they lived out of their root cellar, you know, and things like that. He said that when he asked them about it, they said, you know, we didn't see a difference. We continued to live life just like we normally lived. Now in today's day and age, that's going to be hard because we rely so much on technology and the comforts of the 21st century that it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big difference, and people aren't going to be ready for it. So it's important to prepare for it. And just like in my personal worst case scenario, you know, video talking about ways to prepare for it, it's similar to the same thing. I would say start out with your food source, all right? You have to have a food supply. You can use canning, you can use, you know, dry goods, you can use whatever you need to do or whatever you have for your food supply, but the fact of the matter is you're going to need a food supply. I recommend setting down, creating a menu based on the people that are in your house, create a menu for a week, and try to make that menu based off of things that you can store without electricity. Things that you freeze, you know, if the power goes out, you don't have the money to pay for the electricity or whatever, you know, there'll probably be a lot of blackouts and things like that. You're not going to be able to keep frozen foods. So you're going to have dry goods and things that can sustain you over that course of time. So like I said, make out a menu based on that for your family, however many you have in your household, for a week, and then multiply that times 4 for 4 weeks, and then multiply that times 3 for 3 months. I would say the bare minimum that you need to prepare for is 3 months. Once you have that 3 months, then you slowly keep adding to that, all right? And that way you have your food supply. Hopefully it doesn't last more than 3 months or so, but we never know. So like I said, baseline 3 months food storage, all right? Another thing that you're going to have to prepare for is to defend yourself and your home and your family. So guns, ammo, whatever you choose to use to defend yourself. I wouldn't say that you need a whole gob of it. It's going to depend on where you live. It's going to depend on the population and where you live. You know, if you live out in a rural area, away from big cities, then you're probably not going to need as much ammo to defend yourself and family. But if you live in a big city where crime rates are high, just think they're going to be even higher, and you're going to need more to defend yourself with. So definitely you need a way to protect yourself. So food storage and, you know, protection. Another thing you're going to need is water. You always need water for cooking, for cleaning, for hygiene, for, you know, drinking, everything you need water. And your water storage is going to depend on your scenario or your situation. Once again, city versus rural. If you're on city water versus a well water, things like that, then you need to think about water storage. Once again, 3 months worth of water storage. Good rule of thumb. So think of some ways to start storing water based on your situation. In my case, I'm not going to store water. I'm going to store the bare minimum so that I've got a couple of days worth of water on hand, and I have a well. So, and then for the way I will get water out of my well is I have a generator, and I'll run the generator to pull the water out and fill my barrels and jugs and stuff up, and I'll shut it off. I'll use that water, and then when that water runs out, I'll continue the process. You know, it's not going to take a generator and a well pumping 1,000 gallons a minute that long to fill up your stuff. So 1 tank of gas in my generator should last for a while if I just use it for that. So water, food, water, and protection. Another thing that you might consider is medicines. Things like acetaminophen, ibuprofen, cold medicine, things like that. You know, headaches aren't going to go away. You know, colds aren't going to go away. So you're going to need things to keep you and your household healthy, so that everyone doesn't get sick. More than likely, hospitals aren't going to be, you know, working because of the collapse. And if they are, it's probably going to cost you an arm and a leg, and it's going to be dangerous. All right. So another thing that people I've seen are prepping for or planning for is for bartering. I've seen and heard a lot of people talking about stocking up on alcohol, and bullets are going to become the new currency and things like that. Your precious metals and things like that. The only thing that I would be worried about with that, and don't get me wrong, I've started collecting a few items here and there that I could use for bartering items. As most of you guys know, I reload. So I stockpile brass and primers and powder so that I can make my own bullets and reload, and if need be, I could use that for bartering. Or I could do that as a service to trade for another service or something like that. So bartering could be a great thing, but it could also be a dangerous thing. You have to remember that not everybody is going to be prepared to barter or to be prepared, period. And so if you go out into the public area where you can barter or trade or flea market or whatever, then you're going to be walking around with a target on your back. So that's something to keep in mind. Once again, like I said before, bug in, don't bug out. Stay inside, try to keep a low profile, and try to ride it out the best you can. So anyway, guys, that is the down and dirty on what I think about the worst case scenario of an economic collapse or Great Depression. So if you have any comments or questions, or you can think of anything else that may happen during an economic collapse, go ahead and leave the comments below. Rate the video, and don't forget to subscribe. We've already went over the first video, like I mentioned before, in my six real worst case scenario possibilities, and we've covered 2 of them, so we've got 4 more to go. So go ahead and subscribe so that you can stay up to date. And until next time, guys, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.